Content is not just words. It's data read by not just your human constituents, but by other websites, and especially and increasingly by non-human AI, which is already ubiquitous and will soon be inescapable. It's going to be in everything, every piece of technology, every software that we use basically will be enhanced by AI. So today I'll try to give you some background on AI and how we see it impacting our work as website content managers for state and local government. The rapid maturing of systems like ChatGPT is a watershed event, and we're just beginning to see how revolutionary this technology will be. There will be a whole new vocabulary around it, so I'll try to catch you up on some of the basic terms. So much of our work as content and government people will be augmented by AI in the coming months. We're seeing so many exciting possibilities to help us do our work better. But there are some limitations and risks that we need to discuss. The bots are here. They are fast becoming some of our most important users. So how do we make sure we're building websites for a future where people won't necessarily get our information presented to them on our webpage, but rather we'll have our information presented to them in some other context or format by generative AI? And then lastly, I've put together some suggestions for us right now. I hope these are still relevant by the end of this talk because the technology is moving so fast. But here are 7 things for us as content managers to make sure we're using AI ethically, responsibly, and successfully. But first, the basics. Not a day goes by lately that AI or ChatGPT isn't making headlines of some sort, both good and bad. It seems like we're all talking about it lately. It seems like news stories throw around a lot of these terms like GPT or AI interchangeably, but they're not exactly the same. So let's talk about what these terms mean. First is artificial intelligence, and that's just a broad term referring to machines or systems that think and act like humans. The idea of artificial intelligence has captured the imagination of humans since antiquity and features prominently in art and writing throughout history. Greek mythology incorporated the idea of intelligent robots and artificial beings. The story of Frankenstein created in a lab. There are so many examples. And for just as long, there's been this element of fear baked in that it could all go horribly wrong. Next, if we're talking about the path from artificial intelligence as a concept to where we are now in ChatGPT, the steps toward today began with teaching machines to learn and get better over time. Machine learning is a subset of AI, where machines are able to continually evolve their calculations as more data becomes available without explicitly being programmed. From here, we began to develop the idea of neural networks that mimic the way our own human brain processes information. Upon these neural networks, we developed the idea of large language models, where systems take in vast amounts of text and other data, capturing the syntax and semantics of human language as it recognizes patterns and does statistical calculations. Then, as you've heard today, the GPT in ChatGPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer, and it's a specific large language model. It means it can generate what seems to us, what we perceive to be, original content based on how it's been pre-trained with large data sets, as well as some manual programming. And the correlation of data points isn't only with text. The same company that developed ChatGPT also has an image generator out there called DALL-E, which can produce images that look remarkably like real photographs or digital artwork. I'll show you a wild example here in just a few minutes. So those are the terms you need to know. What's new here is that we've reached a tipping point where AI systems now perform better than humans in many things. Handwriting recognition, for example, speech recognition, image recognition, reading comprehension, language understanding. ChatGPT is learning every day. 100 million users within the first 2 months of its launch on November 30th, 2022, have been marveling at its abilities and also helping it get better and better. To say exponentially just doesn't seem to describe how fast this technology is advancing right now. And there's a real sense of competition among the tech giants to see whose technology will emerge the winner. I mean, this might be the moment where household name companies like Google and Microsoft and Meta make the decisions that keep them relevant well into the future, or spell the beginning of the end of their moment. We've seen it before as new technologies left once dominant players in the dustbin of history. You saw this graph earlier on Nikhil's presentation, but even though what we call artificial intelligence has been around 20-something years, it's only been in the last few years where the systems were anywhere near as good as human performance. And even more recently, where AI systems began to outperform humans in many areas. Here is just a sampling of the tests the latest version of GPT has aced so far. The New York Bar Exam, SAT, GRE, advanced placement tests like art history, biology, environmental science, macro, microeconomics, all of the AP placement tests, the sommelier tests, the Wharton MBA exam, and many others. So it's advancing quite rapidly and getting smarter every day. Again, Nikhil showed this slide, but it suffice to say, ChatGPT has ignited a kind of bot wars. Here you can see exactly what hitting 100 million users within 2 months looks like compared to other booming companies we're familiar with. So it's pretty amazing. So it's here. Even more is coming, and it looks like many jobs will be able to use AI systems to augment their work in a big way. The work we do in tech, in content, and analytics, and customer service, I mean, it's going to be huge for us. And it could be really great. Generative AI could be a great tool. Instead of staring at a blank page, we can at least get ChatGPT to write up a rough draft that can get us going. You've heard us talk forever at DSGA about data-driven decision-making, using data points to help you make decisions that before might have been one person's whim or gut feeling. Data can validate that or help you avoid blind spots. We've still been relying on humans to interpret data up to this point, but what if AI can do that for us? It might even be more credible and certainly more faster. Nikhil was discussing earlier about a commenting platform for local governments that detects sentiment, so officials can quickly tell whether something is unpopular or risky from a public opinion standpoint. Generative AI can also create a sense of personalized or humanish connections. It can generate personal email responses to constituents, write memos and press releases. Brookings Institution, it's a Washington think tank, did a study where they had ChatGPT write legislators a letter to be sent by a constituent advocating for a certain position on gun control. They sent these AI-written emails to roughly 7,200 state legislators around the country, a total of like 33,000 emails, or about 5 per legislator. Assuming that legislators routinely try to respond to the real letters from constituents and ignore obvious like astroturfing campaigns, form letters that come in, they were interested in seeing if the legislators perceived these handwritten emails as authentic concerns. And on the gun control topic, Brookings said the response rate was identical to authentic handwritten emails. So on the other issues they tested, they got basically the same rate of response by the legislators. So it's definitely a big tool that that people can use to help generate this kind of content. So much of that correspondence is part of organized campaigns to flood an office with emails, but this takes it to another level and makes it very hard to distinguish what's real. So it only took seconds to create that. And then in our line of work, content generation and curation is a biggie. So generative AI can assist us in writing how-to-Is, for example. You're maybe familiar with those from GovHub. My team just spent dozens of hours writing how to I's for processes within the Georgia Department of Administrative Services. So imagine if we could have used generative AI to at least create a first draft for us. We could ask it to write at a 5th grade reading level using plain language. It could be a big time saver, as well as a push we need sometimes to get started when we're staring at the blank page with the daunting task of turning policies into like a step-by-step process. Of course, the source material, first created by humans, has to exist somewhere and be accurate, which I'll get to shortly. Next, and on the advantages is virtual assistants and chatbots. As you heard with Ivy, we see the generative AI as serving us and our constituents through chatbots almost immediately this year. This takes search to a new level for our constituents and helps give them the exact answer to their questions. Another exciting area for us in government is the ability to have our content accessible to anyone, even those for whom English isn't their first language. So with these generative AI tools, a lot of the work that we do to make sure important information is in other languages will be taken care of by AI automatically. And it may not be quite there yet, but it will be. I mean, it will be for sure. Just about all the tools we use will have a generative AI component built in. Basically, if software doesn't get on the AI train, it's probably going to be left behind. But there are some concerns that we've mentioned. The biggest, I think, is misinformation, both inadvertent and intentional. There's a lot of stuff out there that's parody. You know, we've seen how gullible humans are when information is presented as fact and not labeled as a joke. You know that propagandists will and already are using AI to spread their messages and have us questioning what's true. So, you know, be skeptical. We've already seen how terrible we are at telling fact from fiction on social media, podcasts, cable news. So what if the so-called evidence is so convincing we can't tell what's authentic anymore? If a story seems too outlandish or feels intentionally triggering, we need to view that with some wariness. Cybersecurity is a big concern because generative coding opens up new avenues for hackers to breach advanced security software. There are many within the AI community raising alarms about how fast these AI systems are learning with no guardrails. There's been a lot of buzz about deep fakes. That is like images in particular, but also audio and video, where we can see someone doing something like with their own eyes and hear them say something with their own ears that is AI generated and not real. Nikhil talked about Steve Jobs talking about COVID. It makes us wonder whether we can ever trust a smoking gun again. Those are often bad actors, you know, intentionally misusing AI for their end goals. But something very common, especially like in these early stages, is what we're calling, or what folks in the industry are calling, hallucinations. And that's where the chatbot or generative system just spits out something totally nonsensical or false, but with exactly the same authoritative voice as if it were true. I mean, it doesn't know the difference. It's a robot. So this could lead to some very bad outcomes if someone trusted it blindly. And then, of course, one of the other risks people are talking about is implicit bias within the systems. All the data the bots ingest comes from humans, and we know humans, even if it's unintentional, have these pervasive biases around race, sexuality, gender, culture, and many other things. And then there's the ethical concerns of basically sampling someone else's work to create a wholly new piece that supplants it. What about plagiarism? What about intellectual property? Those are huge conversations right now. And then, you know, despite, I mean, I guess different folks have different studies, consumer studies. I read one from Forrester that says that customers don't like chatbots, and they can have a detrimental effect on customer relationships. And I should say, with one caveat, they don't like it if they know that it's AI generated. And this was really with automated voice on a telephone in an early stage chatbot. So there's a reason people say representative over and over again on the phone. And I guess that points to the fact that all of these AI tools that we're starting to see crop up. I mean, everybody's getting on this train. Everybody's sticking GPT to the end of their brand name or AI, but they're not all created equal. And some will be better than others. Some are using newer technology, newer GPT technology than others, and some will cost more, and so it's just not everything that says GPT is the same GPT. But the good news is that these tools are getting so good, and we're going to get so used to speaking to robots all the time that we're going to, especially in the sort of the customer service layer, we're going to get used to it. And that brings us to the main part of my talk here, and that's what we can do right now to improve our work and improve the success of AI. Thinking about misinformation and the crazy examples of hallucinations, and a lot of that is just that the vast amount of data out there has so many human mistakes in it. And how's a robot going to know that? So our role right now as content managers for government is to make sure we're not contributing to the wrong information in any way. So I have 7 suggestions for content governance. First is be transparent. Don't present an AI-generated image without disclosing that's where it came from. Don't pretend you're live chatting with a constituent when in fact it's a chatbot. It's fine to use AI right now as a tool when the end product is mostly created by you or is 100% verified by you, but I don't think it's ever ethical to misrepresent your work. When I was doing the research for this, I ran across this slide from an IBM presentation from 1979, and it says a computer can never be held accountable. Therefore, a computer must never make a management decision. And so I think it's very important for us at every level to be accountable for the information we produce and the products that we create, the policy decisions that we make. And AI can assist us in all kinds of amazing ways, but I think there's a risk here that we'll be taken in by how fast and easy AI can do our jobs. Maybe not quite as good, but hey, it's worth the time or effort saved. I don't think that's okay. This is a moment where we need to assert ourselves because we're the ones accountable to the public for the work that we do. So we can't blame it on the robots. Number 2, don't pollute the content ecosystem. If you take nothing else from my talk today, and you've heard it in every single one of our talks, your website should be the single source of truth that powers all of your other information outlets. So as such, you've got to keep it updated with the most accurate and timely information about your policy and services. Clear out the clutter, remove multiple versions, all of the things we've always talked about. Content hygiene, plain language writing, a clear content hierarchy. These are good practices for preventing incorrect information from seeping into the ecosystem. So do your part and don't pollute the information waters that AI drinks from. Don't poison the well. This is my strongest recommendation here. Do not try to maintain separate systems of information. I say that because, and with the chatbots that we've already rolled out for some agencies, we maintain 2 separate knowledge bases, basically. And that's unsustainable. So don't do that to yourself. Your website should be where all of your systems pull its information from. Number 3, bots are now your website's users. There will come a day in the very near future where your information may not necessarily be consumed on the page you've designed, but that chunk of information will be presented as part of some other piece of content in another context to your constituents. Make sure the bots know what they're looking at. Make sure the metadata fields are filled out and correct. Your chatbot is only going to be as good as the information that you give it. Number 4, get a .gov domain. No single thing brings as much authority to your information in terms of SEO and weight by the AI tools as having a .gov domain. I know some people want to have a .com or want to have a .org for some reason, but a .gov is tilts the scales in favor of these tools. If you're eligible, make sure it's a Georgia.gov domain. That's a real advantage for your content being seen as the most authoritative. Number 5, establish routine audits and checks. No matter how pervasive generative AI tools become within your workplace, keep track of how you're using it and establish a methodology for tracking how successful it is. Are you using it to respond to constituents on social media, writing social media posts, writing press releases, whatever? Is it actually saving time? Is it producing accurate results? Measure the same thing month after month so you're comparing apples to apples. Number 6, establish policies and guidelines. Every agency needs to come up with its own policies and guidelines for use of generative AI, a list of do's and don'ts. For example, don't use AI to create random icons or graphics for your website because that conflicts with the established branding of your website. I also should say here that if you're using your work computer or any state-issued device, please check with your agency's security team before installing one of these AI tools or before importing all of your potentially sensitive data for it to analyze. I read a story about some Samsung employees who used ChatGPT to prepare some material about their own AI tools and ended up accidentally telling ChatGPT their trade secrets, which basically handed over Samsung's intellectual property to OpenAI. At GTA, we'll be working on a template for this as part of our statutory role through the Digital Center of Excellence, which I invite you to become a part of if you're interested. I'll talk about it a little bit more at the end of this session. So just like with social media and all of tech, your agency needs to spell out what practices are appropriate for your agency. And then lastly, if I may say, support public oversight. This isn't Democrat or Republican. The companies themselves are begging Congress and legislators to set up guardrails. Last week, the CEO of OpenAI testified before Congress and said that he and other tech industry leaders are looking to Congress for leadership on this. So a lot of tech executives are sounding the alarms about runaway AI technology. So it's high time for some public oversight. Several states have set up oversight boards, and that's a good step. But good regulation can help protect competition in the industry, as well as protect consumers from unintended consequences or from becoming like collateral damage here. So thank you. This topic is evolving so fast that it was a struggle to make sure nothing was out of date by today. But stay engaged with us on this. We're taking nominations for the Digital Center of Excellence, which will crank up this summer with a whole new set of tasks and goals to work through, including creating a template for some guidelines around AI. As these tools become more common, advocate for yourself and for your work, keeping your constituents and service to them foremost in your mind. And then either through the Digital Center of Excellence or by contacting us directly, send your recommendations. Help the state understand AI's impacts, what your needs are, and how you see it affecting your service to the people of Georgia, good and bad. So now, as promised, here's an AI-generated image. Obviously, this is teddy bears working on new AI research underwater with 90s technology. My last few slides are about the DCOE. If you're not familiar with what that is, this is a committee that we have a specific content and social media committee where we set standards and guidelines for content on websites and other digital platforms across the state, and it's open to government. Content strategists, content managers, anybody who's interested in this work, academics, local government, public and private sector. We are open to hearing your input about content and technology and managing that in state government. We also do webinars. We've done webinars this year on plain language using video and government social media. We've worked on standards and guidelines for social media, plain language, and now soon we'll be working on at least a template of do's and don'ts for generative AI. So that's next on our list. So thank you all very much for listening. And if you want to ask me any questions, I'll do my best.
All right, Will, thank you. You do have a question here from Eugene, and it reads, if we inadvertently provide sensitive info to AI, is there a way to retract or delete from the repository?
So as I understand it, I do want to make sort of the distinction between what we were talking about with the GPT that's part of the Ivy chatbot. That is more of a closed ecosystem. So it uses as I understand it, it uses the GPT kind of language building to be able to craft those narrative responses. But the facts that it pulls from are part of a closed ecosystem. That would be your website or your documents that we set up within that particular thing. So if you put stuff into ChatGPT, for example, you're sending that to OpenAI, a private company, and it now has that information. So those are different things. And so if you are using software or some tools that have AI built into it, you would need to know what you're dealing with there, whether you're sending it to them or whether you're operating on something that you've set up so that doesn't happen. So it just depends, I guess, is the answer.
Okay, thank you. There is another question. It reads, we are looking at launching a chat box. Why wouldn't we create a separate knowledge base for it with only information we know to be current and factual?
Okay, so really it's a matter of and we sort of talked about this with Ivy, and I think Nikhil even touched on this. It's a matter of maintenance and making sure that you're in sync with the information as it is most current. So if you have to maintain it in more than one place, the chances of it getting out of sync are greater. And also it's just, why would you do that to yourself in creating a whole other thing that you have to maintain. So yeah, that's my answer to that. I think, we've said this over and over again, single source of truth. Your website is your single source of truth. And we don't even know, ChatGPT or GPT, generative AI, is maybe even just the beginning. And so having your information, factual in that location is good for all sorts of reasons.
Okay, wonderful. Very good. This now concludes the Q&A segment.